We come down to the 30th of June 1934, which is called the Night of the Long Knives. Now, that's actually very important to understand. Hitler, remember, up until this stage, has been running a revolution. There's violence in the streets. To get the results that he wants during election time, it's the SA who are going out, who are attacking communists, who are attacking socialists. To get the Reichstag to vote in his Enabling Act, it's the SA who are standing at the side of the Reichstag looking ready to beat the tar out of anybody who would dare disagree with the Nazi Party. Ernst Röhm, who's the head of the SA, is one of the few guys in the Nazi Party who is not afraid of Hitler. Not only is he not afraid of him, he almost sees himself as Hitler's equal. He didn't ask Hitler's permission to do things. And Ernst Röhm, he wants a number of things that Hitler doesn't want. Ernst Röhm wants this revolution to keep on going. He wants more and more violence on the street. His SA, who had fought for Hitler during the 1920s and the early 30s, he expects them to get rewards. He expects those people to be rewarded. He wants a radical, violent revolution. He wants something that Hitler isn't prepared to give him, because Hitler's got a different goal. Hitler wants to get the army built up so he can make a great Germany, and he knows that Ernst Röhm's SA are basically hooligans. These men are not fit to fight a war. There are 500,000 of them, 500,000 men. That makes Ernst Röhm very, very powerful. The German army, remember, at this stage has only got 100,000 men. Ernst Röhm basically comes to the army and says, listen, I want my guys to become a sort of a military force to help you guys out. And the army are horrified. I mean, these guys with beer bellies who don't have any military training, don't have any military discipline, who get into barroom brawls, who are into murders. Most of the guys in charge of the German army are what they called Prussian aristocrats. They came from Prussia and Germany. They were aristocrats, i.e. they're born to very wealthy, very snobby families, and they detest the SA. And they also realise that the SA can't create a modern fighting force. The men in the German army wanted a modern force with radios, tanks, aircraft, all working in coordination. They didn't want 500,000 Lagerlouts charging into France. And so the guys in charge of the army begin to panic and think Ernst Röhm's got too much power. The other huge problem that Hitler has is that the people see if Hitler's in power, and they believe that Hitler is a man who wants law and order. They don't want fighting in the street anymore. They don't want to see political rallies where people shoot at each other. They want peace on the streets, and Ernst Röhm is not delivering this. Hitler said he could deliver it. The SA just aren't willing to play ball. The SA want more revolution. They want more violent action. They want to really persecute the enemies of the state until they're all gone, until they're all wiped out. And the ordinary German voter doesn't want that. They want peace and quiet again. They want an end to all these troubles. There are guys within the Nazi Party who look at Ernst Röhm and think, here's an opportunity. Guys like Heinrich Himmler, who was in charge of the SS, Hitler's bodyguard, looks at Ernst Röhm and thinks, here's an opportunity. Hermann Göring looks at Ernst Röhm and thinks, here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity for more power. If we can persuade Hitler to get rid of Röhm, that will give us more power and influence in the Nazi state. The German army looks at Ernst Röhm and said, we need rid of this guy. He's a problem. We can't deal with him. We can't work with him. His demands are too extreme. We want rid of him. And so Göring and Himmler and members of the army persuade Hitler that Röhm is getting ready to take over the state, that he's going to attack the German army, that he's going to try a revolution. And Hitler effectively panics. The 3rd of June 1934, Hitler, with a very cunning plan, phones up Ernst Röhm and says, I'd like you to get all the leaders of the SA together. And Ernst Röhm, like an idiot, gets them all together. Hitler arrives in the early hours of the morning in a car with a pistol in his hand and knocks on Röhm's bedroom door. Röhm arrives. Hitler calls him a pig and has him arrested. At this stage, A lot of leaders of the SA are arrested, and over the next few days they're executed. The SAS also used the opportunity to murder anybody who they basically didn't like. And a lot of Hitler's political opponents within Germany are murdered. A former chancellor called Chancellor Schleicher was shot to death. A former Nazi leader, Gregor Strasser, who had opposed Hitler, was murdered by the SS. These are guys who are not part of the SA. These are guys who are not connected to Ernst Röhm in any way whatsoever. But the Nazis had them murdered because it was just a good opportunity. And then afterwards, the Reichstag passed a law called the Retrospective Law for the Measures of Defence of the State. They passed a law for the measures of the defence of the state saying, we should have passed a law earlier saying Hitler had the right to murder whoever he wanted if they became troublesome. But now that he's gone and done it, we're passing a law to say what he did several days ago was okay and was perfectly legal. That's not how laws work, but that's what the Reichstag did. And at this stage, the night of the long knives, Hitler has really got rid of anybody who can effectively oppose him. The SA were disbanded afterwards. The SS take charge, and they're a much more professional, smaller, leaner, more elite organisation, something that Hitler can control, something that he doesn't need to fear. The army think Hitler is wonderful because Hitler's got rid of this problem for him. They came to Hitler and said, Ernst Röhm, we don't like him. Hitler says, there you are, guys. Ernst Röhm's dead. So the army is very happy with Hitler, and this is a man who is trying to give them more tanks, more bombers, give them the soldiers that they want. He's listening to them. He's not opposed to them. So the army is generally happy with Hitler. They look down on him. He wasn't one of them. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't born to money. But the army liked him. But the ordinary people begin to see Hitler as a man of law and order. Hitler's a man who got rid of the thuggery on the streets. Hitler's a man who will stand up to the likes of Ernst Röhm. And that's incredible. Hitler came to power because the SA persecuted his enemies. Hitler illegally has these men murdered and then has the brass neck to go to the Reichstag to say, pass a law saying that those murders were all right. And the Reichstag votes and says, yep, whenever you murder somebody, Hitler, it's A-okay. Ordinary people can't murder people, but you, Hitler, you're all right, you can do that. Yet ordinary people think here's a man who's for law and order. And at that state, Hitler really has complete control over the German nation. It finally becomes official, August 1934. The president, Hindenburg, died. Hitler knew this was coming. Hindenburg was getting older and older and was beginning to lose his mind. Hitler visited him the 31st of July 1934, and Hindenburg said, I'm pleased to see you, Your Majesty. Hindenburg's mind was so confused that he believed that Hitler was the Kaiser who'd been alive during World War I. Hitler at this stage thinks this guy's on his last legs, he's going to die soon. Instead of electing a new president, or instead of saying, I want to be president myself, Hitler says, no, what we're going to do is we're going to create this new role, the Führer, where the Chancellor and the President and the head of the army are all the one person. And that means there's nobody who can challenge Hitler. Hitler's in charge of the army, and he makes sure that all the heads of the army and then all the soldiers swear an oath of loyalty to him personally. That would be very, very important. Later in the war, in 1944, the Russians are coming in from the east and are slaughtering the German army. The Americans and the British are coming in from the west. The D-Day landings have been successful. Hitler is guaranteed that he will lose the war. And at that stage, there were a number of German generals who said, listen, we need to get rid of Hitler. We need to get rid of Hitler so that we can strike some sort of a deal with America and Britain so that we don't get taken over by the Russians. And yet, even at that time, there were German generals who said, yes, this man is destroying Germany. This man is guaranteed that we will lose the war by having the brainwave of fighting America and Russia at the same time. This man is making disastrous decisions with the German army, which are costing literally hundreds of thousands of lives. But we will not attack him because we swore an oath saying we would defend him. These oaths are very, very, very important. And they're sworn to Hitler. It starts in 1934. And Hitler makes sure that the heads of the army swear an oath of loyalty to him, that ordinary German soldiers swear an oath of loyalty to him, that every German minister in the cabinet will swear an oath of loyalty to him, not to the German people, not to the German nation, not to the laws of Germany, not to God, to him. And at that stage, Hitler can basically make whichever law he wants. The odd thing about it is Hitler actually, and to some extent, loses a degree of control here, because there's no way that any one man can know everything you need to know to run a nation. Yet, at the end of the day, one man, Hitler, is being left to make every single key decision. And because of that, eventually there would be many, many mistakes, and it would eventually end up with Germany losing the war. But 1934 is the time when Hitler gains control of Germany, first by putting his foot in the accelerator, letting the SA go and persecuting his enemies, and then he hits the brake, destroys the SA, puts the SS in charge, and convinces the German people that he's a man of law and order.
And convinces the German people that he's a man of law and order.